Hashtag travel story part 4 on today's episode of As Jim Sees It. Welcome to another episode of As Jim Sees It. We're going to get right into it. Right into the travel story part 4. Hashtag the travel story part 4. Before we begin though, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It should have flashed. It's a new feature on YouTube, so the algorithm can bring you to channels that follow directions. Alright, so I leave. Alright, we're back. I had to give an order to somebody. When I was in Georgia, I went on Facebook and my friend Ashley said, she goes, you should start a TikTok. You're funny, and with what you're doing, people might follow. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So I started TikTok, right? It was like real quick. I didn't know about algorithm, anything like that. I don't even like TikTok. I won't use TikTok because my energy is focused on YouTube and solely on YouTube because it's the one that I've used the longest. And I feel like it's the most compatible with the people that are trying to convey a message. So anyhow, I start that up and I pointed out in where I was at in Georgia and people started commenting. They're like, hey man, that's a really, really, really bad area. It's high in crime. You need to get out of there. And I was like, okay. So I got in the bus, and like I said, if you go and look at that previous episode when I was in Georgia and the guy had the gun at the auto mechanic shop and he made it clearly obvious he was carrying a gun. That kind of like was what you were running into. So as I got out of Georgia, quick flashback, I was listening to God's Country. Yeah, and that's a great song. And it wasn't by the one that's on the radio. There's a YouTuber that does like a cover of it, and I don't know if he's a YouTuber or not, but man, it feels more soulful when you listen to it. If I can remember, I'll put it in the link or post in the comments. So everything's going pretty smooth, and I'm driving along and I'm enjoying the scenery. I'm listening to music, and I'm like, all right, cool. It's the end of the adventure, right? It's like the hero's journey was almost like manifested in my physical existence. And all of a sudden the engine, yeah, and I was like, yeah, right. Yeah, it's revving really high, and I'm like, I hear it in the doghouse. And the doghouse, for those of you that don't know what a doghouse is, you probably do, but in a lot of vehicles in the 80s and 90s, big vehicles like that, they had a little area that covered up the engine so mechanics could get to it and repair it, and that's called a doghouse, and it looks like a doghouse, and you can lift it off and work on the vehicle. So that's how I knew something was going on, because I could hear the engine revving really high from that doghouse. So I'm like, that's the transmission. It can't be the engine, it's got to be the transmission. So I luckily was like 50 feet away from pulling over a truck stop. I pull over, get out of the vehicle, walk around, it's blazing hot. The anxiety just gets kicked in times 50, which makes me pour even more sweat. And my heart's pounding. I'm like, well, just stay calm. It could be worse. Check your transmission fluid. Make sure it's all filled. Then assess and analyze and go from there. So I checked my transmission fluid. Dipstick's good. Now, I know a lot of you are thinking, I hope you didn't change the transmission fluid in an older vehicle, because what that does is it kicks the dirt up from the bottom of the transmission, and it can get in between the gears and crack the teeth, and I did not do that. I left the original transmission fluid in there. I didn't do a transmission flush. I think that's the dumbest thing that you can do on a vehicle. That's my little rant. I don't know much about mechanics, but the things that I do know, I was told about that bus, and they stuck in my head like glue because I was living in it. So I say to myself, don't panic, figure it out. I get in the vehicle and I'm like, I can't call anybody. I'm in the middle of Florida. Well, the top of Florida. And I was like, I need to just drive 45 miles an hour. Don't go past fourth gear. So that's what I did. I'm driving down the highway at 45 miles an hour. I call my contact in Florida where I'm going to be staying, and I'm talking to her. We're chatting for about a half hour, and I'm not paying attention. Siri's talking, but I'm not paying not Siri. The GPS was talking on my phone, but I'm not paying any attention because I'm panic and stressed. I don't even think I told her the transmission was going goofy. I just told her, like, you know, I need to get there. I need to get there. And she, after we talked for a half hour, she's like, you know what? It would be a lot easier if you just came tomorrow. And I'm like, okay. So I get off the phone and I'm absolutely livid. I'm like, she has no clue what this stress is like, but it ain't her problem. It realistically isn't her problem. I was the one who chose to do the bus life, to get on the road, to follow my goals, get this thing writ. When I say thing, if you've been following along, get this script written and get it sent out to some studios in the Florida area, because they have, you know, from what I had seen online, they have connections for movies, which I would have rather gone to California, but I didn't have a California connection. Another story, another day. I did go to California, but that was earlier in my life. Anyhow, I just go, okay. And I look around and I just take in the sun starting to drop like I did when I first came into Florida, and it was like 4 in the afternoon. It was beautiful and hot. I'm like, man, those trees are gorgeous. I'm like, those trees look familiar. And then it dawned on me that GPS had been trying to tell me. I say GPS because it's, you know, it's a machine. So it's been trying to tell me, and I'm talking on the phone, not paying any attention, that I'm going the wrong direction. And I didn't see a gas station that whole time. Now, mind you, I had filled up at some point, but I was like getting low on fumes. So that's already adding to my anxiety. And you know how it is with stress. And I'm like, oh my God. So I got to turn around and drive 40 miles back the direction I came. So I find a place to sleep for the night. I lay down, pass out to Alan Watts. I can't remember which one I passed out to, but I know it was, there's really good Alan Watts videos where they have like really cool music, ambient music, where his lectures are getting taught about life and getting older and experiences, all these different things. So anyhow, I listened to that, fell asleep, and got up and just started driving again, you know. I get into Ormond Beach, Florida, and call her, and she guides me to the area where I'm going to be staying. And I pull into her neighborhood, and she's there, and I get out, we hug, and that's kind of it for that part of this story. So that is the end of hashtag travel story part 4. Next week will be part 5. No, I'm going to wait 2 weeks and then do part 5. Next week I'll do a comedy episode, or maybe some drama. Some dramatic. I no longer have an iPhone! What am I going to do? Okay. Thanks for watching. Appreciate the followers that have been following. Keep it up. Smash that like button. Talk to you later.